Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Kristy Taylor, and I am so excited for this series where we are promoting and focusing on Fibroid Awareness Month. Last Friday, I had an opportunity to share my story with you. And as you know, this is my platform for Dr. Maryland America. But I am talking to women from all over America who have dealt with fibroids, and they're being open enough and honest enough to share their stories. And so my first guest for this series is Miss Monica Jones. She reached out to me and actually inspired me to do these one-on-one interviews to get women, encourage them to share their stories throughout the month of Fibroid Awareness Month. So hi, Monica, how are you doing today?
I am doing good. How are you? I am super excited to be on to share my story. Super, super duper excited.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself and your fibroid journey.
Okay, so a little bit about myself. I am an educator. I am an elementary school academic content lead for my school district, which means I just simply train teachers on literacy instruction. So pretty much English language arts and training teachers on our curriculum, professional development, how to better themselves in the classroom. So that's my professional side. But my fibroid journey started about 5 years ago. So I did as women, we do our annuals, our PAPs and things like that. And she noticed like 2 fibroids. And she said, we're just going to monitor them. We're just going to watch them. So she asked me a series of questions, sort of like, are you having any pain? How are your menstrual cycles? Have you noticed any pelvic pain? Have you noticed any pressure in the bottom of your stomach? And I was like, no, I haven't noticed anything. So I went back the following year. I had like maybe 3 more. She said, are you still having pain? And they were very, very small. And I said, no, I haven't noticed anything. I haven't noticed any changes. I haven't noticed anything. So by the 3rd year, I started noticing the pain. I really didn't have anything with my cycle where, some women have trouble where their cycles are like extremely heavy. I noticed that my cramping was a little bit more intense. I started having the pelvic pain. I also noticed that the bottom of my stomach would be like extremely uncomfortable. So it was like a lot of discomfort. So I went back for the next year and she said, listen, your fibroids are growing. You have multiple fibroids and they're starting to get larger. And then my stomach was starting to protrude out. And I started looking like I was pregnant. And I was like, I don't know what's going on. So I struggled so for the past 2 years, I've just had a lot of pain, a lot of discomfort, frequent urination. Like I said, the pelvic pain, my back would literally, because I was carrying so much in the front, my back would hurt because it would feel like I was carrying a baby. And I've never experienced carrying a child. So I was like, what is going on? Sleepless nights. Getting up, going to the bathroom multiple times during the day, multiple times during the night. It was just,
it like presses. It's like it almost presses on your bladder.
It's pressing. And it was just, the pressing was just so intense. And then when I would get up and walk, I could just feel the discomfort. I started not to be able to lay on one side when I would sleep. So I would toss and turn all during the night. And it was just getting to the point where I just could not. It was becoming unbearable, the pain. Like I would literally wake up sometimes in tears just from the pain and the discomfort. And like I said, my cycle was never really heavy, but I started noticing just intermittent cycles. So for example, my cycle will come on 1 month and then maybe it didn't come on the next month, or it will come on and then it wouldn't be like a regular cycle. It would stay on maybe 2 days, and then maybe 2 weeks later I would get a full cycle, but then it would be back normal. And it was just, I was like, what is going on? So I started going to the doctor more often. She was like, listen, we have got to do something about these fibroids. And by that time, within that 2-year time span, I had over 20.
Wow.
And it just, they ranged in sizes. Like my largest one was probably like 15, 16 centimeters. It weighed like 6 pounds. And then they were just all over the place. And they were clustered around my uterus. So I recently had, and I may be getting more into your questions, but I recently had a hysterectomy on June 22nd because my fibroids were so large. my OBGYN said, I don't think UFE, myomectomy, or partial hysterectomy, I don't think any of that is going to work for you, simply because your fibroids are so large and they're just clustered around your uterus. So when she did my hysterectomy, she just pulled my uterus out. And of course, the fibroids were around the uterus. So she removed my uterus, my fallopian tubes, part of my cervix, and one of my ovaries.
So
So
what was that decision like for you to have to make? Because I know for me, the period, the menstruation got so bad, and I guess since we're saying real women, real stories, we're talking about it, and we have about 6 minutes left in this interview. So I definitely want to say, the menstruating for me was so bad, it was to the point I had to wear Depends. It was to the point where, oh gosh, I can just tell so many stories when you had to make that decision to, okay, I'm going to go through the process of a hysterectomy, because I have been told to do that twice. I just could not emotionally do it. But what about you? I mean, when it got to that point?
It just honestly, Dr. Taylor, it was honestly, I prayed about it for a long time. There was just discontentment about it. And I honestly felt like, since we, real stories, real women, I just didn't want to feel like my womanhood was taking.
Yes. And I've interviewed a young lady before, and we've talked about that. That's a big one. And I know I'm almost 43, and so I don't have any kids because of fibroids. Well, not meeting the right person is number one, but also because of dealing with fibroids,
Yeah.
And I still have that hope of having children. And so that is a big decision for me to, okay, I'm just going to keep doing myomectomies and kick it to the end till I get to menopause, right? But that is such an emotional decision to have to make.
Yeah. And so for me, I honestly, I never really wanted kids, right? But it was the fear of having surgery. Like, this was my first major surgery. And when I say, like, I am an educator, so I have children around the world, right? But
Yes.
and I have nieces and nephews and different things like that. So there was never like a full grab for me to have kids. And so I was just like, okay, well, but the emotional aspect of it, just knowing that I have to have surgery, am I gonna be okay? Am I gonna wake up from the table? It was,
but even that piece where you talked about the struggle with womanhood, right?
Yep.
Like, you're literally taking out my uterus, and I've seen that, the emotional, having to grapple with that. What was that like for you?
I just honestly, I didn't want to do it. I mean, the more my OBG, like the last candid conversation that I had before my hysterectomy with my OBGYN was, she said, you do this. If you don't do this, then what? Because I just got tired of being in pain. It was affecting my quality of life.
Personally, were you dealing with other things like anemia and other things?
Yes, that's what I was ready
to
say. Like the iron, taking the iron pills, and then when you take those iron pills, I mean, let's just be honest, they constipate you.
They do, and also my body just, no matter what I did, I could not absorb. I was eating kale, spinach, iron pills. I was eating sardines. My body, without the infusion, my body I was just sleepy and tired all the time.
I personally, I just didn't want to do anything. Like, my friends would be like, hey, let's go to dinner. Let's do that. I didn't want to do nothing. I was moody. I had an attitude. Like, I just didn't want to do anything. Professionally, in my job can be stressful sometimes, right? Because you over like all the teachers in the district, along with other people in the same field. And training teachers is a lot, and then standing up and doing professional development, going from different school to school. You're walking around different schools, you're providing support to teachers and making sure they have what they need. And the walking in those schools, like some of our schools in our district are fairly large, and then some are not as large. So some of the walking started to affect me. I would have to take breaks because literally I would be out of breath. You've heard the things.
I was gonna say, I'm in the reserve, and I've been literally on a profile because the anemia has been so bad. It was taking me almost an hour. You talk about walking slow just to try to run 2 miles. And I had the last surgery I had was in August. I got an iron infusion 3 weeks ago, and I went from like 35 minutes on a 2-mile run to down to like 24 minutes, just because of my body feels the difference. And
Yes, and
so,
like I never did the iron infusions. Like I did the iron pills, but I just honestly, professionally, I started experiencing brain fog. Like I just couldn't remember anything. Like I was just like, because the blood and the fibroids, and it sucks up so much, and then the lack of sleep and the loss and just everything. And I started having brain fog. Like I would be like, because normally I'm the person that remembers things, right? I started losing my keys. Like I'd be like, where I put my
yeah, and
keys?
people think there's other things wrong with you, but it's simply just these fibroids. And as simple as
Yes.
I'm saying, oh, it's simply, but people don't realize the impact. So now that you've had the surgery, what lifestyle changes, treatments, or self-care practices do you have now? How are you feeling now post-surgery? Because again,
Um,
this is for women who are listening in, and you find, okay, this is a hard decision to make, right? How are you feeling post-surgery?
I honestly feel great. I have been resting. I have been recovering. I still have just some of the surgery aspects that they discussed
Mhm.
with me. You may experience some bleeding, but I haven't had any of that. I had a spotting maybe 2 days, but that was it. Um, I've experienced, when I urinate, that there's still like some pain in the bottom of my stomach, but it's
Mhm.
not like how it was. It's not discomfort. It's just the urination. Um, my back doesn't hurt anymore. I've lost
How are you energy-wise?
energy wise. Like I feel fine. There's somewhat fatigue just because I'm recovering from the surgery, which was explained to me that you may experience maybe 2 or 3 weeks of fatigue, but it doesn't compare to the type of fatigue that I had when the fibroids were there. Like I literally can sleep through the night now and get up and have a renewed sense of energy. um I just feel better. I'm just resting and recovering. I take my time. I don't do anything outside of what the doctor told me to do or told me not to do. I'm just really taking my time, um, just really resting and recovering. The only thing that probably has been somewhat of a setback is just being in the house. I didn't.
Well, it's the summertime. I don't know if your job,
Well,
do you
so
get
I
time
work
off for summer?
225, and
Okay.
so I work year round. So I really don't get a summer. Like we have like a week or two, that they give us, but I just that's the only thing. And then just being having people to have to take care of you has been somewhat of a challenge for me because I'm really independent, really strong will, really high strong. And so yeah, and so like my friends, they've been super supportive of this journey. I just it's been good to say the
Well,
least.
I really want to thank you for coming on, Monica, and sharing your story because it can really be difficult. I think really just you contacted me and I said, well, let me share my story because it's not, I don't, you see, I'm on this interview with my general stuff, right? Because I don't often get on and open with the medical side of but my actual PhD is in health science. And so
Yeah.
for years, I've taught courses in health education. So it's so important for women to know about this. So as we wrap up our interview, I know you don't have a particular business or event that you're promoting. So I guess for you, my question is for women who are considering this, and if you're watching this, you have two women with two different experiences. I've experienced two myomectomies, one at 30, one at 42, right? And in the hopes of someday meeting the right person and having children. And then you have Monica who said, look, I work with children every day and I didn't necessarily want children. So she went ahead and had the hysterectomy and she shared with you her perspective and experiences. So if you are tuning into this, what advice, Monica, would you give women who are experiencing this and are trying to figure out the next steps that they want to take?
The best advice I would give is to definitely pray about it. Be content with your decision. Don't let people try because everybody's body is different.
Yes.
So, some people will say, you should do this, you should do that. Girl, you need to drink this tea, you need to do this, I mean, it's so much research out there that holistically, yes, you can do. But just to be honest, that was just never my situation. My fibroids grew to the point where
Rapidly.
they
Yeah.
grew rapidly and I just could not. Like it was like the decision had to be made. The best advice I could give is just do what's best for you. If your doctor is telling you, hey, let's try this, definitely listen, but you do have to listen to your body. You do have to listen to what's going on with your body. And you do need to understand that fibroids are an issue. While they're non-cancerous tumors, they affect people's livelihood.
They
And so
do.
when it started to affect my livelihood, that's when I got more serious about, okay, I need to make a decision. This is something that I really need to make sure that I stay on top of. And like you were saying, Dr. Taylor, I started eating the salads, I was eating the roughage, and I'm a foodie, right? And so when they were like, you need to eat some salad, you need to eat some kale, try some liver, that's high in iron. I was like, I don't want that. I want some chicken wings. I want a hamburger. But I just honestly, I just made a decision to do what was best for me. And I could not worry about what anybody else thought, because no one knew what I was going through and nobody knew the pain that I was in. Like, I have a lot of friends who deal with this, but their pain level was still different from mine. And so I was just like, I got to make a decision for me. And that's the best advice that I can give anybody, is to make the best decision for you. Listen to your body, listen to what your doctors are saying, and sometimes what they say may not be what you want to do, but sometimes it's necessary to be done. So I started things like, after I would pray about it, I would just meditate on being positive, because fibroids it could be an energy vampire, right? Like,
Really
it can zap mentally you are exhausted, physically you're exhausted, everything about you is just exhausted. And so I just started, telling myself I was okay, Dr. Taylor. So it has been a pleasure to for us to just chat. That I'm a real
Yes.
woman with a real story that has experienced fibroids. I'm on the other side of it. I'm still recovering. I'm still resting. I appreciate the candidness in the video. In the interview. This has been wonderful, and I look forward to many more opportunities just to share my story. So people
Yeah,
can.
and I know again that you opened that door by just reaching out and connecting with me. And so, guys, stay tuned in for the month of June, because we're going to be talking to women all month, sharing their stories about fibroids. I think next Tuesday, and then we're going to actually have a couple people that are running major events focused on fibroid awareness that we'll have in. So thanks for tuning in. Check this story out on our Work Global News YouTube channel. It'll also be available across my personal platform, so you can find it on Instagram at Dr. Kristy Taylor and on TikTok. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Thank you again, Monica.
You're welcome.